Life is a story. It's a collection of people and places, moments and memories, ideas and spaces. All great stories must begin somewhere. Ours begins where the air is clear and where ideas, energy, and people do life together. Each chapter of our story is shaped by those we choose to do life with. Life in all its splendor. We find worship and wonder in the abundant beauty of the vibrant Pacific Northwest. And savor the warmth and energy of a small college town. This is our place, a place that fuels our search for answers to life's big questions. What do I believe? Where do I belong? Who will I become? Here, we discover and offer our gifts to the world, crossing hallways, states, and continents, with hearts and eyes tuned to the needs around us. Here, we celebrate the true, the beautiful, the divine. These are my people, and this is the place we gather. What's done together means more than what's done alone. Swerving, curving, scaling, soaring, exploring, performing, creating, innovating. Love and friendship appear, sometimes unexpectedly. Here, we find ourselves known, seen, understood, welcomed. The belonging we yearn for, we freely give. Here, in the middle of nowhere, we find fellow travelers on the road to everywhere. This is life together. This is life.
I hope you enjoyed watching one of my favorite videos about Walla Walla University, which I feel does a great job of representing who we are as a campus. As you know, we are here today to talk about how families and students utilize financial aid in order to help pay for college. This presentation has been designed to help you understand the financial aid process, as well as how financial aid can help you become a part of the Walla Walla University family. We have found that students who attend Walla Walla University are able to discover their career paths and are prepared not only for success, but are also helped in shaping their character, fostering their faith in God, and are encouraged to live a life of service to those around them. My name is Trevor Congleton, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Marketing and Enrollment Services. I'm here to introduce our subject experts and help answer any questions that you may have. At any time during this presentation, if you have a question, you can ask it by typing it in the chat box. We will get to all of your questions at the end of this presentation, which should take about 30 minutes. If you'd like to download the slides that we'll be covering in this presentation, you can download them through the link in the panel on the right side of your screen. Today, I've asked Doug Taylor, Associate Director of Student Financial Services at WWU, and Melissa Ray, Associate Director of Recruitment, to join us. We know that right now, one of the biggest questions that students and their parents are facing is how to pay for college. The Walla Walla University experience is one of a kind, and we believe that it is worth the investment. For many of our students, this is their first opportunity to stand on their own in their spiritual journey. We provide a faith-friendly environment for those students as they take these important first steps. We provide all of our freshmen with mentors, These are Christian individuals who share Walla Walla University's values and goals and who meet with them regularly to see that they are making good progress. We provide an environment for living that is conducive to a Christian lifestyle. At Walla Walla University, students have many opportunities for service, and we are intentional about preparing our students for a life of service to others. Doug and Melissa, let me turn it over to you, and let's get started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you about the financial aid process. Okay, Doug, let's start at the beginning. How much does it cost to attend Walla Walla University?
Well, the figures you see on the screen are this year's expenses for a full-time student. In addition to the tuition, room, and board, there are variable expenses for things like books and miscellaneous expenses. Now, you maybe have seen some news stories about some state universities that are increasing their tuition significantly. We expect next year's tuition increase to be about 2%. And this is going to be the 8th year in a row that we've been able to keep our tuition increases to around 2%. Surprisingly, when you factor in all expenses, including room and board, as well as the great scholarship program we have here at Walla Walla University, it can actually cost less than other four-year colleges. We've also calculated that for most students, it's cheaper to go 4 years to Walla Walla University than it is to start at a community college, live at home for 2 years, and then transfer to the university later.
And there are several factors that play into that. We have lower housing and cafeteria costs. We have a great scholarship program, which we'll talk more about in a few minutes. Washington State has a great need grant program for its residents, and Washington State has one of the highest minimum wage rates in the U.S., so our students are able to earn more money while they're here. We also have a great on-campus work program, and we've been proactive about encouraging off-campus employers to hire our students, so there's lots of opportunities for students to find work. The majority of our students have a job while they're in school, and most of those are on campus. This benefits students both financially and academically. We've studied the GPAs of students who work on campus, off campus, and don't work at all, and those who work on campus show slightly higher GPA than the rest. And because of Washington State's higher than average minimum wage laws, we estimate that students working 15 hours a week will earn about $2,000 more per school year than a student with the same amount of hours in a state that only pays federal minimum wage. And there's a significant minimum wage increase scheduled for Washington State in January of 2020. When you come to visit campus, you'll have the opportunity to talk with potential employers and learn more about the student employment opportunities and what positions might be available for you. A lot of our new students find their job during Jumpstart freshman orientation or the first week of classes. So if you get to September and you don't have a job yet, don't panic, it's totally normal.
In addition to student employment, there's also financial aid available to help students and parents pay for college. This can include grants, scholarships, and loans. Grants are usually awarded based on financial need, but don't have to be repaid. Scholarships are usually awarded based on some kind of an achievement or a criteria other than need, and also do not have to be repaid. Loans are usually low interest rates and are offered either through Walla Walla University or the federal government. We also expect that most of our students will work while they're in school and contribute $3,000 to $4,000 towards their college expenses from both their school year earnings and their summer savings. Last year, we processed more than $43 million of financial aid, and that made our average award more than $23,000 per student. And we awarded aid to 90% of our students.
That's awesome. Doug, can you walk us through the steps to apply for aid?
Sure. The first step is to apply for an FSA ID from the federal government. Students, you're going to need one. Parents, if you've applied for one before, maybe for another child, you will not need a new one. But if you don't already have one, you will need to apply for one as well. The easiest place to apply for the FSA ID is at fsaid.ed.gov. So, to make sure I'm clear about this, the student is going to need to have their own FSA ID, and the parent will need to have their own FSA ID. The student, you're going to use your same FSA ID each year. You may be using that for signing certain federal documents. And then, as I said, the parent's going to have their ID, that they're going to use that ID each year and that same ID for all of their children. You should also file your taxes for 2017 if you haven't already done that. And that's because you can import your tax information directly into the FAFSA application, and this just makes the FAFSA more accurate and easier to complete. And this can also save the family time if the government selects your FAFSA for verification. Each year the government selects about a third of the FAFSAs for verification and requires the schools to get additional information. If you use the IRS retrieval option and didn't change the numbers, they consider that information already verified. If you don't use the IRS retrieval option and you're selected for verification, the only other option is to get a tax transcript from the IRS. We're no longer allowed to use photocopies of tax papers. So use that data retrieval option for the FAFSA. It can shorten the process from a few weeks to just a few days. The second step is to complete the free application for federal student aid, which is known as the FAFSA. I've been mentioning that. Every school in the U.S. uses the same application. Now note the word free. If you accidentally go to FAFSA.com, you're going to get a pay website. So make sure you're on the free website. When you're filling out the form, be sure to include the university school code, which is 003799. So that FAFSA form, it's a federal form. It collects the demographic and financial information about both the student and the family. It asks a lot of questions, but don't be intimidated. If you just take it question by question, it's not that complicated. The form is limited, though, to U.S. citizens or permanent residents of the U.S. And then you're going to use that FSA ID that I talked about in step 1. You'll use that to sign the FAFSA application. Now for step 3, some schools, and Walla Walla University is one of those schools, require their own institutional financial aid application to be submitted. So our institutional aid application is available on the university website. This form only takes about 5 minutes to complete. And one thing to note about this process, it is the student that needs to apply and be accepted as a Walla Walla University student before the financial aid award will be calculated.
A lot of students have already applied for next school year, and our recruitment team has been visiting academies in the Northwest as well as academies across the U.S. and Canada and encouraging students to apply. However, if you or your student has not yet applied, they can do so at apply.wallawalla.edu, where they'll create an application account and submit their application electronically to us. Once the student has applied, they'll need to send us a copy of their academic transcript in order for us to make an admissions decision. Many colleges and universities have a deadline for applying for aid. At WWU, students need to apply for financial aid by April 30 in order to qualify for maximum aid. And since it takes a few days for the federal government to process the FAFSA, I do not recommend waiting until April 25 to start the process in hopes that you'll be done and have it processed by April 30. While April 30 is the priority deadline, you should really start the process now. The sooner you complete the aid paperwork, the more aid could be available to you. We used up our entire Washington State Need Grant allotment this year, which is a huge grant, and we don't want anyone to miss out.
If you feel that the FAFSA doesn't take into account your unique circumstances, it may be possible for the school to do a professional judgment to reduce your expected contribution. Some of the things that a school could consider: does the family have tuition expenses for other children in the family who are in elementary or secondary school? Does your income vary widely from year to year? Maybe we need to look at averaging the family's income over 3 to 5 years. Do you have unusual medical or dental expenses that were not covered by insurance? We may be able to take those into consideration in your financial aid application. Maybe your circumstances have changed since you fill out the FAFSA. Maybe a parent lost his or her job, or perhaps there was a divorce or remarriage in the family. If there is a divorce in the family, the FAFSA instruction says that the parent that the student lived with the most during the last 12 months That's the parent who should provide the information on the FAFSA. If the student did not live with either parent or lived with both parents equally, then it's the parent that provided the most financial support in the last 12 months. If both parents provided equal amounts, then you just keep going back 12 months until one parent provided more financial support than the other. Occasionally we'll have a situation where a family is maintaining two households. Mom and dad are happily married, but for some reason, and usually it's for work, one parent has to live and maintain a household in another location. Perhaps a parent is going to school and is seeking a degree, so this is more than just a parent taking an occasional class. They need to be accepted as a degree-seeking student. Sometimes we work with families that are taking care of the parents' parents, or maybe they have unusual dependent care expenses. Perhaps you had a one-time capital gain on the sale of an asset. We may be able to exclude that income from that capital gain. Assets actually play a very small role in determining the parent's contribution. The government does not look at the value of your home. It does take into account the age of the older parent, knowing that an older parent needs to be saving for retirement. So, if you disagree with the FAFSA results, give us a call and we can work through this with you. It may be possible to reduce your expected contribution. Melissa, you mentioned a little bit about our scholarship program earlier, but would you break that down on how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. We award merit scholarships to high school students who are coming in with a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or higher. The higher their GPA, the larger their potential scholarship. We also require that our students maintain that 3.0 GPA while they're at WallaWalla University in order to keep those scholarships. This isn't based on your final high school transcript. It's based on the most recent transcript at the time they're admitted. So it could be based on a student's 6-semester transcript if they apply for admissions at the end of their junior year of high school. They are locked in at that time for that scholarship amount. We will never drop it below that award. However, if their GPA does increase after that initial transcript we received, we're more than happy to increase their scholarship to the next level that they're eligible for, as long as we have that updated transcript. It's definitely in the interest of the student and the family to get accepted early and get that scholarship locked in. We also look at a student's ACT and SAT test scores. Whichever gives them the highest scholarship, their GPA, their ACT test, or their SAT test, that's the scholarship they'll receive. If a student comes to us from outside of Oregon or Washington, we'll also give them a $2,000 out-of-area grant. In addition to that, we like to reward students who have been in leadership positions their junior or senior year in high school, and we can award up to $1,500 based on those leadership positions. When the student applies for admission to the university, they can tell us each leadership position they've held junior and senior year. If they take additional leadership positions after the time they apply, they just need to let us know and we can increase that scholarship up to the maximum of $1,500. So we're talking around $57,500 over 4 years for a student who receives our top merit scholarship, our $2,000 out-of-area grant, and the maximum leadership award, which is the equivalent to getting over a year and a half of expenses covered for free. We also have scholarships for national merit students. To qualify for the National Merit Scholarships, students take a test in October or early November of their junior year in high school. They get one chance to take this test, and you can check with your high school or academy to see if your student did this. A National Merit Commended student is eligible for $1,000 each year in addition to our academic achievement scholarships. A semifinalist is eligible for an additional $1,500 each year. A finalist will get full tuition their first 2 years and half tuition their second 2 years with us. This would be in place of the academic achievement scholarship. We expect great things from our national merit students, so we ask them to maintain a 3.8 GPA to renew this scholarship each year. One thing to note about these scholarships for entering freshmen is that if you go to another school first and then decide to come to WallaWalla University, even if you've earned as little as 1 credit other than during a summer session, you're considered a transfer student with us and you're no longer eligible for freshman scholarships. Each year we have several students that transfer to Walla Walla University after attending another university just fall quarter. We love having these students join our Walla Walla family, but some of them have lost more than $40,000 in scholarships because they were no longer considered first-time freshmen. We want students to start with us and stay with us, so we're very upfront about our scholarship program. Students who attend another college or university before or after starting school at Walla Walla University, other than during a summer session, forfeit those freshman scholarships.
Let's talk about the need-based aid at Walla Walla University. When you fill out the FAFSA that I talked about earlier, you will be applying for several programs of aid. So let's look first at the grant programs. The maximum federal Pell Grant program this year is over $6,000, and we have not heard yet if this is changing for next school year. The NPUC grant, this one is funded by the annual offering for Walla Walla University. It can give a student up to $900, but the student must apply by April 30 to be eligible for this grant. Depending on the student's financial need and other resources, the Walla Walla University grant can be several $1,000s. This year I saw several that were over $15,000. Most needy Pell eligible students can also get up to $1,800 on a federal supplemental educational opportunity grant. We do run out of those funds, so that one's another one that it's important to apply early if you want to be considered for that grant program. Eligible students who are Washington State residents, you can get more than $9,500 in a Washington State need grant. And as we mentioned earlier, we ran out of funds this year, so it's important to apply as soon as you can if you're a Washington State resident. And DACA students are eligible for this grant. The College Bound Scholarship is for Washington State residents who signed a pledge back in 7th or 8th grade that they were going to graduate from high school or from a homeschool program with at least a 2.0 GPA. They promised not to get convicted of a felony and that they would go on to college in Washington State. Now, there is a financial need component in that, but it can be worth over $6,000 per year. Now, no student is eligible for all of these programs, but I just want students and parents to realize that there is a lot of financial aid available for students. There are also loan programs available. Walla Walla University has a loan program, and we can loan out more than $3,500 in the freshman year. Freshmen can also borrow up to $5,500 on the federal direct loan program. It's called direct because you're borrowing directly from the federal government. The government may pay some of the interest on the loan while the student is in school, depending on the FAFSA information. Just about everyone who's eligible to fill out the FAFSA is eligible for the direct loan. When Bill Gates' kids started college, they were eligible to take out the direct loan, although they probably were not eligible for the interest subsidy. For additional financial aid, there's the Parent Plus loan program that parents can take out. They can borrow the difference between the cost of attendance and the financial aid that the student has been awarded. There's no limit to how much a parent can borrow over their lifetime, and then the loan is set up on a 10-year repayment plan, and interest and loan fees apply. And for the direct and the plus loan, the government does deduct those loan processing fees before they send the money to Walla Walla University. While we encourage students to avoid loans if they can, don't let the news stories about student loans scare you. Most of those stories you hear are extreme cases rather than a typical student loan. Our average graduating senior leaves with about $35,000 outstanding, which is actually less than a few years ago when our students were borrowing a little bit more. Our students are borrowing actually less than the national average. Consider student loans really to be an investment in yourself. Having that college degree gives you the potential for higher earnings, and then as we saw in the last recession, people with the college degree had a much lower unemployment rate. You can tell that Walla Walla University students are able to manage their student loans by looking at our default rates. When you compare our students' default rates with the national average, you'll see that our graduates are able to pay back their loans. And this shows that most of our students are taking out a manageable student loan debt load. For our direct student loans and our Perkins loans, our default rates are about 1/5 of the national average. So we're proud of the fact that our students take responsibility for repaying their loans. And as I also mentioned, a low default rate is an indicator that our students are borrowing a reasonable and affordable amount when it's compared to their future earnings.
Now, when you compare the cost of different schools, you want to be sure that you're comparing apples to apples. Make sure that you're looking at total cost and not just tuition expense. Add in key items like the school's required fees. Room and cafeteria costs can also vary widely, and so do other fees. So our room and cafeteria costs are consistently lower than most private schools and considerably lower than the state schools. Don't forget to calculate the cost of travel for times like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and spring breaks. As we said before, it's our financial aid program that can make the difference in the affordability of a Christian education. So when you're looking at the total cost of each school, subtract the amount of aid you receive at each institution to see what the out-of-pocket expense for your family will be. Doug, do you have any other resources you can recommend as students and their parents are looking at how to pay for college?
Yes, now is the best time to be applying for scholarships for next year. When you're searching for outside scholarships, the first thing I recommend you do is make a list of the scholarships you find. So you want to write down when the application is usually available, what the deadline is for that scholarship, how much is a typical scholarship, are there any requirements such as you need an essay or maybe they need an academic transcript, where did you find the information? So write down a website address if that's where you got it, and then you want to keep going back to that list to make sure you meet those deadlines. I encourage people to talk to your local high school guidance counselor. When people create scholarships, they usually notify the public schools, but they forget to notify private schools. So your academy may not know about some scholarships through no fault of their own. Ask other places that might know about scholarships. Check with your local Chamber of Commerce to see if there are any local scholarships. If a local bank has a trust department, ask there. Check for community foundations. The best scholarships to apply for are the ones that have a limited pool of applicants. For example, a local electrical co-op here in the Walla Walla Valley gives out 3 scholarships each year for $1,000, $1,500, but you have to be a customer to be eligible to apply. So a small pool of applicants makes it much more likely that those applicants are going to get the scholarship. Check if you're a member of a credit union, check with the credit union and see if they give out scholarships just to your credit union members and children of members. Again, that small pool of applicants increases your chances of winning. And don't just go after the big dollar amounts. A lot of people don't apply for the smaller scholarship, and so that increases your odds of winning. We had a student who ended up working in our office who came her freshman year with 7 outside scholarships totaling $3,700. The largest was $1,000, most are around $500, but $3,700 is a nice bonus. Another one of our student workers mentioned that his friends laughed at him for applying for a $500 scholarship. He told us that he spent about 2 hours on the application and won the scholarship. And he said that $250 an hour was not bad wages. The best free website we've found for scholarship searches is fastweb.com. Definitely do not pay for a scholarship search. Almost all paid scholarship searches are either fraud or they give you the same information that you would have received from a free scholarship search. Google is a great source to find discipline-specific scholarships. So if you have a unique skill or a special interest, there may be a special scholarship out there just for you. And also Google things like your city and state with the word scholarships, or your county and state with the word scholarships. On the scholarship page on the university website, you'll see a section dedicated to outside scholarships. We also have a list just for Washington State residents, and we have links to other scholarship searches. For example, there's a great scholarship database for the state of Oregon that we have linked on our website. For Washington State residents, if you're pursuing a degree in science, technology, engineering, math, or healthcare, and that includes nursing, there's a special scholarship, and over 4 years, that one could be worth $17,500. And then don't forget to consider other sources that may be able to contribute. Can your home church help? The university tries to match up to $2,000 of a home church's donation if the student shows financial need according to the federal formula. Now, it needs to be money coming from the church congregation and not the parents or grandparents donating the money hoping to get a match. Summer work, summer savings. Some students save $4,000 or $5,000 from their summer work. How about other relatives? Maybe grandparents want to help, so don't be afraid to ask.
We believe that Christian education is one of the most valuable investments you can make. It challenges students academically, it connects them socially, it prepares them for a successful career, and it strengthens them spiritually, all within the supportive community of faith. We work hard to make sure Christian education is accessible and affordable, and God comes through time and time again to help us make that possible. At the bottom of the slide is a link to a web page that brings together useful information on paying for college, and there are some calculators there as well as lots of helpful resources. We encourage students to visit WallaWalla University, and you can bring your parents with you if you'd like. We'll provide a campus tour that's fun and informative, led by one of our staff or students. You'll have a chance to meet with professors in your chosen department, sit in on a class, talk to people in admissions and student financial services, and talk to someone in student employment. We provide free transportation from the Walla Walla and Pasco airports, and we'll also give you up to 3 days and nights of food and lodging while you're here. We'll even reimburse half of your travel expenses up to $250. And if you enroll as a student at Walla Walla, you'll have the other half, up to $250, as a scholarship on your school bill. All we ask is that you give us at least 2 weeks notice so we can get everything set up for you in advance for a perfect visit. You can schedule a visit online with us at wallawalla.edu/visit. Parents, we want to make sure we have the most current information for you so we can stay in touch with you and answer any questions you have. Now, once a student is accepted to WallaWalla University, they'll be able to access our My WWU system, which is our student information system. Make sure they check their to-do list. On that list, they'll see 3 items waiting. Click on each one and it will give instructions on how to complete the task. And if you have any questions on how to log in or how to complete the task, you can contact computer support. And their direct number is 509-527-2317. Students, first you'll want to make sure you and your parents' contact information is correct, especially the student cell phone number and the student and parent email addresses. We promise we're not going to spam you with emails or texts. We just want to keep you in the loop with important reminders and deadlines. Second, be sure you give permission for us to send automated text messages to your cell phone. We're not texting frequently, we just want to make sure you don't miss those critical deadlines. Third, you'll want to set up parent permissions so we know who we should and who we should not talk to. Students, when you get to college, you're in control of your information, and we won't share your grades with your parents unless you provide permission. Parents, we want your email on file so that you can receive our parent newsletter. It contains information to help you know what your students should be doing at each stage of the enrollment process and other helpful tips from parents who've gone through this process already. We also like to email parents about tasks that need to be taken care of if the student maybe hasn't taken care of them already. Now, Trevor, before you open this up for questions, can you go over the list of dates that students and parents should keep in mind as they approach the first day of college?
I'd be happy to talk about these. As Doug mentioned earlier, if you haven't already done your taxes for 2017, you'll want to file those now. Once those are processed, you can retrieve the IRS information into your FAFSA. After that, we have 2 university days planned in the spring, one in March and one in April, for you to come check out our campus. While you're here, you can talk to teachers, meet other students, and see what life would be like as a student at WWU. You'll be able to tour campus, attend classes, participate in some events that we have planned just for you, win prizes, and more. This is a great time for students to learn about our individualized and comprehensive financial aid program. The U Days event in March is primarily for people coming to visit from outside the Pacific Northwest. The one in April is designed primarily for the North Pacific Union Conference Academy seniors. However, you're welcome to attend either one. Just sign up online at wallawalla.edu/UDays. We'd love for you to come for a personal visit as well as attending one of our U Days events. The individual campus visit is customized specifically to what you want to do while you are on campus. You will have the opportunity to meet with our faculty and staff who would be able to give you more personalized attention. U Days, on the other hand, is great for the number of special events that are planned by departments, and you'll have more opportunities to network with other prospective students, or as we like to think of them, your future best friends. Let's talk briefly about some important dates that will be coming up. Keep in mind that April 30 is our priority deadline for financial aid. That's also the deadline for paying your enrollment fee. The enrollment fee is $200 and non-refundable. It tells us you plan to be here. If you pay it by April 30 and enroll for fall quarter, you will get half of this back. You can't be placed into your classes or reserve your room in the residence hall until this fee is paid. So we encourage you to pay it as soon as you're accepted and know you want to be at WWU in the fall. And we'd also recommend that you get a chance to look and review your financial aid package before you pay that fee. Jumpstart then begins on September 15th. This is an important week of orientation to help you get acquainted with campus and is required for all new students. By Wednesday, September 18, you should have paid your down payment, completed any necessary paperwork for student loans, and have signed your financial clearance online. As we get close to that date, you'll be hearing from Student Financial Services on what you need to do. And then on September 23, you begin your college education at Walla Walla University. On the screen now are some important phone numbers for how to reach us. Jot these down or download the PDF of this presentation and give us a call. We're here to help you make a Walla Walla University education a reality for you. Okay, let's get to the question and answer period that you guys have started to submit. Just a reminder that you can continue to ask your questions using the chat box, and we'll answer them in the order that we receive them. So feel free to start entering them now. Here's a good one. Let's start off, Doug. Can a student apply for financial aid before they have been accepted?
Yes and no. Students can apply. We'll take their information, but until the student has been accepted for admission to the university, we don't process the application. So basically, it just sits in a file waiting for the acceptance. But then as soon as we get word that you've been accepted, then we begin processing the application.
Great. Thanks, Doug. Let's go another question. How soon can a student apply for admissions? And do they need to wait until the middle of their senior year of high school? I'll go ahead and answer that one since I work in the admissions area. We actually will accept students based on their 6th semester transcript from high school. So if you've completed your junior year, you're eligible to apply for admission. This definitely has an advantage. If you have a great GPA on that 6th semester transcript, we will lock your scholarship at that level. Let's say your senior year, though, you decide to take a lot of hard classes, maybe pre-calculus or calc, and we want to encourage you to do that, and your GPA slides a little bit, your scholarship is still locked in on that higher GPA level. So it is definitely in your advantage to apply for admission as soon as you're eligible. Also, should your senior year maybe be a little bit better than that, and it rises your GPA up into a new category, we'll award you that higher amount. So really, we try to make it to your benefit almost in all situations if we can. Let's see, next question. Doug, this one looks like it'll be for you. It asks, once a student's financial aid package has been awarded, how do you notify the students and parents?
We send out an award letter to the student, and then with that award letter, we include a personalized financial plan, and that's going to include our best estimate for your expenses on campus. We estimate your monthly payments, and that shows on that financial plan. And our payment plans are quite simple. We take your costs, we subtract your financial aid, so that includes your scholarships, and then we divide what's left into 3 equal payments for each quarter. The first payment is due the Wednesday before the start of classes, and then the next 2 payments follow about a month apart. And then when you begin the next quarter, you pay anything that's left over from the prior quarter, plus that 1/3 down payment for the new quarter. And again, that payment would be due the Wednesday before the start of classes for the quarter.
Great. Thanks, Doug. Let's see, here's another one. If a student starts at WWU, then goes to another school, do they still get their scholarship when they return?
If they go somewhere else in the summer, that's okay. But if they go to another school and take even just one credit other than during the summer, they lose their eligibility for that scholarship. So we want them to come here as a freshman. We want them to stay their entire 4 years with us.
A quick follow-up on that question, Doug. So if they start at WWU, then go to another school for several terms, and then transfer back to WWU, can they have a transfer scholarship since they lost their freshman scholarship?
No, they're considered a returning student, not a transfer student. So they've lost their eligibility for scholarships. Now, they still can apply for need-based financial aid, but they don't get their scholarships back. So like we keep saying, we want the students to start with us, and we want the students to stay with us.
All right, looks like we've got about 2 questions left. So if you have a question that hasn't been answered yet, go ahead and submit it now so we can make sure we get to it before we log off. Let's see, here's one from a parent. It says, a friend of mine has a student at WWU, but they said they can't see his grades even though they pay the bill. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's actually federal law. As soon as the student starts college, the student has total control over who gets their statement or who knows their grades. Of course, like we said earlier, parents, you can tell the student you won't pay the down payment for the next quarter till they show you their grades.
All right. Looks like we're to our last question, so make sure you submit quick. This question asks, as a California resident, what programs or financial aid am I not eligible for? Doug?
California, not eligible for the Washington State Need Grant, not eligible for the Washington State Work Study Program. That's a program that allows employers in the Walla Walla area off campus to hire some of our students, and the state pays some of their wages. And so they have to be a Washington State resident to be eligible for that. But of course, California students can work on campus, no problem at all there, whether they've got the work study or not. There's really no other disadvantages for being an out-of-state student. As a California resident, you will be getting the out-of-area grant, the $2,000 grant that we talked about earlier in the presentation. But other than the Washington State Need Grant and the work study, I can't think of any other disadvantages for being from California. And in fact, you'd actually be in good company coming from California. Mm-hmm. Trevor, isn't that our second largest?
Yes, typically it's our second largest group of students that come is from California, with first being Washington State.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We got another question too. Let's go with that one. It says, when do we know if a student is eligible for any Pell Grants?
If you have submitted your FAFSA, you should be hearing from us within the next few weeks. Tomorrow morning is when we're hoping to start loading in the first of the FAFSAs that have been submitted. That FAFSAs have been available since October 1, but we're just able to download those. I was told at least this afternoon that they expected to bring in the first ones tomorrow morning. And so then we'll be loading those and then processing those. So it's probably going to take, because we've got about 400, I think, FAFSAs that are waiting for us to download. So it's going to take us a little bit to get through that backlog. But I would expect in the next maximum 4 weeks, but more than likely 2 weeks, you're going to start seeing award letters from us. If you log into My WWU, that's the portal that students have access to their information, you're going to see the award as soon as we can see the award. So you get real-time data there, so you can be just logging into My WWU. If you've forgotten your login or password, just call the IT support, the help desk. And do you remember the number off the top of your head, Trevor?
Oh, no, I can find it.
I
don't remember.
think it's 509-527-2317.
I'll double check it.
Okay.
And I think you're right, 509-527-2317 for IT help desk. So we've got a question. Actually, this is kind of a neat one for us because it's in Spanish. So I've asked Claudia Santillano, who is our alumni and parent relations director, to come and help answer it. So Claudia, if you'll come over, say hello.
Hola.
And Claudia, here's the question if you want to read it, and then we'll read the translation.
You want me to read it in Spanish?
Yeah, in Spanish, the first part.
La pregunta lee, buenas noches, me gustaría saber cómo puedo obtener beca para estudiar en Estados Unidos, cuáles son los requisitos que debo cumplir ya que soy de Honduras. Gracias por su atención.
For those of you that don't speak Spanish, the question was, good evening, I would like to know how I can have a scholarship to study in the USA, and what are the requirements that I must fulfill since I am from Honduras? Thanks for your attention. Claudia, would you be willing to translate for Doug as he answers it?
Sí.
Thank you. So as a transfer, or as a incoming student, you will be eligible for the scholarships we talked about, the freshman scholarship, which is up to $12,000.
Como estudiante atendiendo la universidad por primera vez, sí eres elegible para recibir una beca de $12,000. $12,000 por año. Is that per year?
That was per year, yes.
Por año.
Or if you're a transfer student, you can have up to $4,000 per year.
Si te estás transfiriendo de otra institución de educación a Walla Walla, recibirías $4,000 al año como beca.
As an out-of-area student, you would be eligible for the $2,000 grant per year.
Como estudiante fuera de esta área, también recibirías, this is in addition to, right? También recibirías una beca de $2,000.
Unfortunately, you are not eligible for any of the federal aid unless you have citizenship or a green card.
Desafortunadamente, no podrías recibir ayuda financiera del gobierno federal al menos que seas ciudadano o residente de los Estados Unidos.
Other than the National Merit Scholarship we talked about earlier, Walla Walla University does not have any full tuition scholarships.
Aparte de la beca de mérito nacional, la universidad no tiene becas adicionales.
And then Trevor, there's a website they can go to for international students.
So a great resource just to see what the admissions requirements are and what steps are needed before we start school in the fall is, go ahead, Claudia.
Los estudiantes internacionales deberían de visitar la página con instrucciones en cómo aplicar y qué tipo de ayuda financiera podrían recibir.
You'd want to go to WallaWalla.edu/new steps, one word, and just click on the international requirements, or if you're a U.S. citizen, you can click on that and see what all the requirements are.
Y esa página es WallaWalla.edu /new steps.
I don't know. Yeah.
No. It's all in English, right?
Yeah.
Está en inglés la página.
All right, and I think that covers it. And if you're an international student, it's important to notice that we also have certain TOEFL scores that need to be met in order to be accepted, as well as an international deposit.
Si eres un estudiante internacional, deberías de notar de que se necesita el examen TOEFL y los resultados de ese examen.
Great. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, here's another one. What programs are available for California residents? My son is already admitted.
So they're going to be eligible for pretty much everything we've already talked about, the Pell Grant. They're going to be eligible for the SEOG grant. That's the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. That one we do run out of money on, so you do want to submit your FAFSA early. You'll be eligible for consideration for the Walla Walla University grant, the NPUC grant, if you have your application in by April 30. That one is only awarded to the ones who meet that priority deadline. Not the Washington State Need Grant, as I mentioned earlier, not the College Bound, that's also a Washington State one. But all the scholarship programs we talked about, they'll be eligible for the out-of-area grant, the leadership, and the achievement for GPA or good test scores.
And what's nice too with that out-of-area grant, that's not tied to that 3.0 GPA to keep every year. So the student gets that just because it's more expensive for them to get to and from campus. and to get home during holidays and things like that. So that stays with you all 4 years, which would give you that total of $8,000 over the 4. So it actually helps quite a bit from what I hear from students and families. Okay, let's see. We got another question. It asks, how long does it take to find out if a student was accepted? I'll go ahead and take this one. Typically, it can take we try to process it as fast as we can, as long as we have all of the necessary information. So in order to accept a student, like we said a little bit earlier, we have to have at least a 6th semester transcript from the high school the student attends, as well as a complete application. Usually the longest it'll take us can be about 2 weeks, especially right now with this is application season for colleges, and it is for us. We get a lot of applications at this time of year, so we're trying to process them as fast as possible. If it's been more than 2 weeks or anything, feel free to call and let us know. Occasionally we find that there's a piece of the application that is missing when a student fills out either a paper one or they fill out an online one. And so we have to try to get a hold of them to get any additional pieces of information. But generally, I'd say it will happen within 2 weeks' time. And as soon as we do accept them, they'll usually get an automated letter, and we'll also send out a packet that says this is what your scholarships are. You've been accepted to the institution. All that kind of stuff is generally how the acceptance process works. It looks like that we don't have any more questions now. If you guys find that you have questions after the presentation is over, please feel free to give us a call. We are more than happy to help. I know Student Financial Services and Doug's office is great at helping with questions about the FAFSA, about just financial aid in general. Make sure that you utilize that as a resource, and the same goes for recruitment and admissions. If you have any questions about that, we are more than happy to help. That whole thing. Okay, that looks like that is the end of our questions. And so I'd just like to say thank you to all of you for watching this presentation. I'd like to thank both Melissa Ray and Doug Taylor, as well as Claudia Santillano and Alex Harris, who has helped with the presentation and making sure that we have all the correct slides up. I hope you found this presentation helpful and that you feel more prepared to take the next steps towards your college adventure. We would like to have you at Walla Walla University, and if a Walla Walla University education is in God's plans for your life, we'll do everything we can to make it work for you. You have our promise and our prayers. Have a good evening.